Sir, I have a question. Does everybody need a guru in life? Can you give your views on this?
Well, not just my views. I would like to give the views of my guru, Sri Aurobindo.
Yes.
For all practical purposes, yes, everybody needs a guru. Everybody who wants to live a meaningful life based on the deeper truths of existence, wants to live a life higher than the ordinary life, which is lived primarily at the level of physical needs and emotional needs, and is inevitably filled with joys and sorrows, and one feels as if one just has to negotiate through these somehow or the other, and try to maximize the joys and minimize the sorrows, but one really finds no way out of the misery and suffering in life. So, if one wants to live a life which wants to seek an lasting and ultimate solution to the problems of human existence, if one wants that type of a life, then yes, a guru is necessary. It's necessary because our personal effort is often based on a lot of ignorance as well as limitations. We are potentially divine, but when we are born, we are in a state of ignorance and helplessness. And as we grow, wisdom really dawns on us rather slowly. So that even if a person becomes vaguely aware of living a meaningful life, he finds that the instruments are not really adequate, the understanding is confused, and therefore one is not really sure which way to go and how to go about it. That very beautiful song, there are a few lines in that, you must be knowing that better. Pankh hai komal, aankh hai dhundli, jana hai sagar par. So the instruments are very weak and faulty, and yet the journey that we want to make is across the ocean, to the other side of the globe, as if, or to the other side of the universe. So that is the type of journey we want to perform with these highly inadequate instruments. And therefore, one of the things which can obviously help is to seek the guidance of someone who has already traversed that path. And that is what the guru is. So the guru is someone who has seen it and is now able to look at things from a higher plane. Sri Aurobindo says that there are three major functions of the guru. One is that the guru is a source of knowledge, the word of the guru. So the guru can teach, the guru can guide through words. But then this is not the most important function of the guru. More important than word is example. That is, we can see how the guru has lived, how the guru is living, and the example of the guru is a guide which is in a way even better than the word. And the third function of the guru is even more important than the example, and that is influence. Influence is something subtle. It's something which just sort of radiates from the guru. The presence of the guru itself creates an influence, and that is even more important than the word and the example. So these are the three major functions of the guru, and if we look at them, then one finds that because of this, it's not essential to have a living guru, because the word of the guru is available through books. The example of the guru is again available through the various stories from the guru's life, and the influence of the guru also continues to charge the atmosphere far beyond the physical existence of the guru. And this would depend to some extent on the spiritual stature of the guru. The highest stature has been that of the avatars. And that is why the influence of the avatars like Rama and Krishna and Buddha and Christ continues to be there even thousands of years after they have physically left this world. So it's not essential to have a living guru, but a guru is essential. Once one of the disciples of Sri Aurobindo, he was a great intellectual, Dilip Kumar Roy, he asked him, Does the spiritual capacity of the guru matter in how effective the guru will be? Should one try to choose a guru with great spiritual capacity? Of course, he was very polite. He told him, sir, it doesn't apply to you because you are at the level of an avatar. But for an ordinary person who's choosing from other ordinary gurus, because so many around, does the spiritual capacity of the guru really matter? Sri Aurobindo said, no, it does not matter so long as the guru is a genuine guru, a sincere guru. That is what matters, the purity of the guru. The spiritual accomplishments of the guru or the spiritual stature of the guru does not matter, because the guru is only a bridge, a channel. Ultimately, it's the divine force which is acting. So the guru is channelizing the force of the divine to the disciple. So since the force that is acting is that of the divine, which has no limits, the limitations of the guru do not matter, because he's only acting as a channel for passing on the influence of the divine to the disciple. And therefore, that is not important. That leads to another very common question. And how do we know who is a genuine guru? The most important thing is probably something which is intangible. You would probably know it intuitively, because you would see in the apparently accidental circumstances which bring you in contact with someone who you feel like adopting as your guru, you would see an unseen hand of the divine in guiding you in that direction, so that you ultimately landed on that particular person whom you feel like adopting as a guru. But having said that, there are a few things which one can keep in mind. One is that a genuine guru makes you feel completely at peace. You feel completely at peace just by being present there in the presence of the guru. The guru need not say anything, do anything, and yet you feel completely at peace. So you should get that feeling of the guru radiating that infinite peace around. So the vibrations of the guru, we may call it in current language, the vibrations of guru should be very positive and peaceful. Secondly, more concrete than that would be that the guru should not be trying to attract disciples, have a large number of disciples, should not be trying to earn from his work as a guru. Doesn't mean that he doesn't have to make a living, but at least his primary motive is not that. The two things are apart. His physical existence, for which he may need some money, is one side, and his trying to help the disciples is another. So he should not be doing any of these things which sort of seem either materialistic or directed at boosting his own ego. Neither material progress in terms of wealth or name or fame he should be interested in, nor should he be interested in increasing the multiplying the number of disciples. If he shows this sort of disinterestedness in personal gain of any type, and he also radiates peace, then one can say that it's a genuine guru. So for all practical purposes, everybody does need a guru. Although, one can say that the ultimate guru is within us, because we all have the divine within us. We are the manifestations of the divine. So we have the guru, ultimate guru within us. But that innate guru, which can guide us, the soul, and the dynamic aspect of which is the psychic being, Sri Aurobindo and the mother call it the psychic being, which guides us at all crucial moments through infallible and quick guidance, which comes in a split second. So that is our ultimate guide and our ultimate guru in a way. But to be able to establish contact with it, to identify that voice, to depend upon it fully, is not easy because of the limitations of our own instruments, the body and the mind. And therefore we need a guru. And that's why once when Sri Aurobindo was asked by a disciple that if I feel like doing something and I feel it's my psychic being which is telling me to do it, and the mother tells me to do something different, what should I do? He said, do what the mother says. Because, you can't depend so much on the voice of what you think is your psychic being. Because, the voice of the psychic being is also filtered through the mind. And, the mind can be very tricky. So our own ego can sort of make us feel that, yes, this is the voice of the psychic being. And then we get convinced that this is the voice of the psychic being, but it may not be. So there may be some egoistic motives behind what we attribute to the psychic being wrongly. So that's why till quite a late stage, one cannot really depend upon that inner guide completely, and therefore a guru is necessary. And that is why another thing that a genuine guru does is that he does not try to make the disciple dependent on him. Ultimately, the guru also wants to wean the disciple away, so that the disciple can use this inner guide. But till the guru is necessary, the guru is available. But at the same time, the guru does not want the disciple to become dependent on him.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, everyone.